So let's catch everyone up to speed real quick. Here's what the basement looked like when we first bought the place, and the plan is to bring it into the 21st century. So far we've removed all of the old drop ceiling, got rid of the old spiral staircase, and installed a new open rise staircase in its place. Then I sprayed the ceilings all black, and in today's video we're going to focus on removing this old bar and building a new custom bar from scratch to replace it. The current bar has an odd red tile top to it, and it's definitely seen its better days. It could also be reoriented to better optimize the space. So let's get to demo.
I couldn't figure out how this was attached. I was like pushing it as hard as I could, it wasn't budging. And then I looked in the corners and I could see a little bit of wood filler in each corner. So I think they just nailed it directly to the wall. So I'm just gonna use a crowbar here to pry it off the wall. It should go pretty easily. Alright, so now that we have all of that clutter cleared away, we can get onto demoing this bar. We don't really like the angle that it's on or the design, but we're gonna be putting another bar in its place. However, we do have a tiled top, so I gotta be careful when removing it. I'm gonna try and take out as big of chunks as I can, as well as all of this stuff on the front. This cedar, I believe, is what it is, and all of the rest of the basement is covered in it. So I'm going to try and salvage as much of that as I can in case we need to use it elsewhere in the basement. And we also have a refrigerator, a sink, and a dehumidifier back here. So as I demo, I'm going to be careful of all those water sources and electrical outlets. So anyway, let's get to it. So here's a good example as to why you don't use plywood underneath tile. As you can see, the mortar does not stick well to it and the tile would just pop off. I just set this down pretty gingerly and already a bunch of tiles are falling off of this. You're always going to want to use something like a Durock or a Schluter system in a bathroom and make sure that the tile can actually stick to it. Alright, so now with that counter off, you can see the innards of the bar, and it's just pretty much assembled with 2x4s, so it shouldn't be too hard to take apart. And as I mentioned, this is just a shiplap cedar siding that I'm going to try and take off nicely so I can reuse these boards if I need to. So we'll pull that off first and then we'll get to demolishing the inside of the bar.
This demo wasn't too tricky, but the only hard part was that they tended to use nails rather than screws back then, so I was using my crowbar a lot rather than my drill, but eventually I got it all demoed. And while I was at it, I decided to move to the other side of the basement where there's this kind of shelving unit attached to the wall, and this is now going to become our TV wall, so I decided to take that down as we didn't really need all this shelving, and I think we have enough wood in the space already. And now with all the demo done, it's time to move on to design. Alright, so as you can see here, I've modeled the basement in 3D. This is using Google software SketchUp. It's free to use and pretty easy to learn too. So if we zoom in here, I modeled the walls and the carpet as well as this fireplace here, and I left out all the furniture just so it's a little bit easier to work with. So this corner here is where we're going to be putting the bar, and you can see this little box in the floor here that actually represents the drain line as well as the hot and cold water lines coming out of the floor, and those aren't movable because they're into the cement subfloor, so we kind of have to work around those, and that's going to be a constraint in our design. We could put the bar against the left wall or the right wall. If we put it against the left wall, the drain line is going to come into play here because the cabinets will come out to about here, and then this drain line will be right where you're going to be walking, so I don't think that's the best option. So in this case, we're going to be going with the wall on the right to put our cabinets against. And so now let's bring in some cabinets just to see how it'll look. So first, I'm going to bring in this cabinet over here. So this is going to be 24 inches deep in this direction, which is standard for a cabinet, and I just made it 30 inches, but that's pretty arbitrary at this point. So if we go with that, and then let's say we bring in another cabinet to go on the other side of it, basically creating a galley-like kitchen, and let's say that they're separated by 30 inches. So that actually works nicely. As you can see, the drain line will come up directly underneath this cabinet, so we could probably make a sink on this side. And now let's just double it and extend it down the wall really quickly. Alright, so there we go. You can kind of see how the bar is going to be formed. This will be the walkway here in the middle, and the idea is to maybe put some bar stools on this side. However, now that we have 24 inches here and 24 inches here, the distance between the fireplace and now the back of these cabinets is quite small, so I don't know if we're going to be able to fit a bar stool there comfortably. In order to resolve this issue, I think our best bet is to use non-standard cabinet depths, and instead of these being 24 inches deep, let's make them 18 inches deep. And so now here's the kitchen using those 18-inch deep cabinets. We still have a nice big walkway here and plenty of room on this side. I think we could use some upper cabinets over here as well up against this wall for additional storage, and this still leaves some space on the right to put something else, maybe like a Coke machine like we have. Now that we have a rough idea of what we want to go with, let's now design the individual cabinets. I'm going to get into how to build these cabinets in a future episode, but here's basically the rough design. It's going to be made out of 3/4 inch plywood, as you can see here, and I'll pull off the doors so you can see inside the cabinet. So it's basically just a box, and then there's a few supports at the top and at the back, but it's not too complicated. And then we also made a toe kick here of 3.5 inches high and 3.5 inches deep. Now that we know how the cabinets are going to be constructed, let's build the kitchen. So to start the design of the bar, I decided to go against this back wall first, and I put an 18-inch deep cabinet by 30 inches wide. Then I put a second one directly next to it, and we also wanted a beverage cooler here, so I factored that in next. They actually do make 18-inch deep beverage coolers. Most of them are 24, but there are some out there that are actually 18, so I was able to find one and source that. And then I put a third 30-inch cabinet on there, and then that makes the total distance 9 feet, which I think is a nice size for a bar. It's not too big and not too small. And then I put some of the toe kicks on there to cover up the bottom of the cabinets, and then I started on the opposite side. About 34 inches are how much distance is between this side of the cabinets and this next side. So I started with a 24-inch cabinet, and then the next cabinet is going to be the sink, and I did 24 inches so that way the drain lines can come up just through the one cabinet here. And there's the sink cabinet. I made it 36 inches wide in case we wanted a large sink, and you can see how those will the drain lines and stuff will come up through here and into the sink there. Then I made 2 more 24-inch cabinets, and that makes the distance basically identical on both sides, and I think that provides a lot of nice storage. I then put countertops on both of these. I might do concrete counters, we'll see, otherwise I might just do a quartz. And then from there I added a kind of pony wall here, and then a bar top on this side for those bar stools. So that way the countertops here are at standard counter height, and then the countertop up here will be at the bar height of 42 inches. Then I added these 2 cabinets on the back side, which will store liquor and probably be lit up with some LEDs. Then I put a shelf in between those to store even more liquor or whatever else we want, and then I'm going to add some backsplash behind that. And there's the bar. Let me know what you guys think of the design down in the comments, and if you think I should make any changes. I'm pretty happy with it so far, but I'm definitely open to suggestions. If you've seen our kitchen remodel, it's going to be very similar to that in terms of design. As you can see, I'm using black cabinets, and there's also going to probably be some gold or brass accents, but I'm really excited for this process. The only problem is I need an area to build these cabinets, and I don't have much of a shop. If you've seen some of my latest videos, it is quite cramped and I don't have that much space. So before we can actually start building these, we need to do a garage renovation. So that's going to be coming next week, so stay tuned. And if you enjoyed the video or found it helpful, please smash that like button as it really helps out the channel. And as always, thanks for watching and happy building. See you next week.